Phoenix here today. I'm going to make a video about something called chord extensions. And the reason I'm going to make this is because we had a volunteer who made a great video on how you take a key of a song and you can name the notes on your scale and turn that into a chord progression using the basic triads. And I think he did like a 1, 5, 6, 4 progression or something, a really popular pop progression in C. And it got me thinking, should give you guys the tools to spice these up a little bit more. So I want to go over chord extensions. So I'm just going to talk about the most common ones for now. What I mean by chord extensions is you take your basic chord. So for example, we're going to start with just like a C chord, C, E, G. And we're going to extend this chord. And we're going to extend it into something called a major 7, okay? And a major 7 looks like this. We're adding a 4th note to the top of our chord. And the reason it's called a 7 is because it's the 7th note of our scale for that chord. So if we're in the key of C, all white keys, C is 1, E is 3, G is 5, B is 7. So if we're playing a C major 7, we're playing a C major chord with the 7th note of the scale, B, on top. It gives it a bit more color than just a C major. If I play a C major here, and then a C major 7, you hear the difference. There's a little bit more color in the chord, okay? So, again, the reason it's called a 7 is because I'm taking the 7th note of our scale. So C is 1, E is 3, G is 5, B is 7. Okay? Now, there's a couple other 7s besides major 7. This is called a major 7, like I said, because we have a C major, and then our 7. There's obviously, if there's C major 7, there's one called C minor 7. C minor 7, we're going to change 2 of the notes in our chord. And now, this is a major because we're using all the notes from our major scale. So now we're going to move to our minor scale. Our C minor scale looks like this. C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C. Okay? So, if these are our notes, C minor chord would look like this. The 1, the 3, the 5. C minor. To make this a C minor 7, we're going to add the 7. The 7th note of our C minor scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is our B flat. So let's take our C minor and add our B flat. This is our C minor 7. A little bit more color than just C minor, right? C minor, C minor 7. Gives it more color. That's the whole point of extensions in chords, is you get more color, you get more personality and character in your chords. And a lot of times in styles like jazz and R&B, that's what you're going for. That's where you get the mood and the personality of your song, is in the harmonic content like that. Okay, so let's move on to another one. Let's do one called dominant 7. It's called dominant 7 because it takes place on our dominant chord, and it has a really important job actually. So we're gonna go back to C major, all white keys. The dominant chord in our scale is our 5 chord. Okay, so if we're in the key of C, it'd be G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on G, right? So we're gonna take our G chord, okay, G, B, D, G major, and we're gonna add our 7. But since we're still in the key of C and we're using all the white keys in the key of C, the 7th note on the G scale is F, okay? And this has a very bluesy sound to it. So when you're playing the blues, or when you hear me playing the blues maybe, we're always kind of rocking these chords a lot. It's a very bluesy sound, okay? Now, the reason it's called a dominant is because in music theory, every note in our scale gets assigned like a purpose. It has a title. So like 1 is called tonic. We have subdominant, predominant, all these things. But 5 is dominant. So we get a thing called a dominant 7. When you play a 5 chord, or the fifth note of your scale is a chord as a seventh, you get a dominant 7, okay? Now, the reason it's called dominant and it's not a major chord, not a major 7, is because we have a G major chord, but if we wanted to make it a G major 7, we would use F sharp, okay? That's our major 7 right there. Since we're not using F sharp, we're using F, we call it a dominant 7, okay? Because we're not necessarily a major 7 yet, because we're using a minor third between our 5 and our 7. If it was a major 7, it'd be a major third, but it's a minor third. So our G stays the same, but our 7 is a half step lower. This is a dominant 7. Now, if we wanted to go from dominant to minor, the only thing we'd have to do is our third would go down 1. So this is now a G minor 7. So this is how we're going to move between our 7s. We got G minor. If we move our third up 1, you get G dominant 7. And then if you move your 7 up 1, you get G major 7. These are how 7s work, okay? So, the way that we use these is if you're playing, say, a major chord, say we're in C and you're playing a C major, you can just substitute for a C major 7. It gives you a little bit more mood, a little bit more, I don't know, color and personality. It just makes it sound cool. It gives it a lot of cool sound. So, let's just go through an example, one of these. There's a really, really famous Beatles song called Something. Okay, it's written by George Harrison, one of the Beatles, and it starts like this. We start with a C chord, just a C major, not a 7, just C major. Then it turns into a C major 7. So this goes to C, E, G, B. And then it goes to a C dominant 7. C, E, G, B flat. And then it goes to an F. Now the reason it goes to an F, and that sounds like home key, listen, I'll play the beginning of it. So it goes... And the reason it sounds really good when we land on that F is because we were playing a dominant 7 before it. So, the purpose of a 5 chord, or a dominant chord, is it leads to 1. It likes to go home to 1. So if we're in C, dominant is G, C, G, C. Makes it really sound like that ending on a C note is like our home base. We've arrived home, we're done now, right? So, if we're moving from C, C major 7, C dominant 7, to F, landing on that F from C dominant 7 really sounds like we went home. And the reason is because if we were in the key of F, F, G, A, B flat, C, that's our F scale so far. C is the 5th. So if we were playing a C dominant 7, that's just like the 5 chord in our F, key of F. That's why it sounds really good when we land on the F afterwards. So, one more time. That's the whole purpose of a 7. You're kind of getting a melody in that top half. But our chord is still the same. Just another example of how we can use 7s to move around. Because if you were just playing a C the whole time, it doesn't really have the same effect. But if you're doing the major 7 to dominant 7, it's got a whole different vibe. Okay, this is basic extensions with 7s. We can go further and talk about things like 9s and 11s and 13s, but we'll save that for a different day. Have a good one, everybody. Try and experiment with this. Rule of thumb is, if it's a major chord that you're playing, try and throw in a major 7. If you're playing a minor chord, try and make it a minor 7. That's all you gotta try. There's really no correct order to play the notes. You just kind of fit them in where you can. If you're playing a C major 7, but you want to take out the G and you just have these 3, that's fine. If you want to move this B down here and lose the C and keep these, that's fine. It's all the same chord. It all sounds cool. It's just whatever you guys like, whatever your ears think is great. Have fun, experiment, try it out. I'll be back later to show you guys some more fun tips. Have fun, everybody.